Don't let these tears fool you. It's all dog around this mug. I'm good.
Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones. And yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. I really do appreciate your time, no matter where you are, wherever you may be. If you're new to the channel, I ask that you hit the subscribe button. If you are here right now, I ask that you hit the like button. And I really do appreciate your time. But let's go ahead and get into it. On this edition, we're going to be talking a little bit about the Saints restructuring the deal of Marshon Lattimore. And we're also going to be talking about the Saints' big Week 18 matchup against the Atlanta Falcons. And, of course, we know the playoff implications there. But let's go ahead and get into it, talk a little bit about the Saints restructuring the deal of cornerback Marshon Lattimore. We know that the New Orleans Saints do this quite often. They restructure deals in order for them to become cap compliant, and they're kicking it off pretty early here going into the year of 2024. A tweet was sent out earlier Wednesday afternoon by Phil Yates of ESPN. He says the Saints' work to get under the cap in 2024 has begun early. The team recently converted $13.79 million of cornerback Marshon Lattimore's $15 million 2024 base salary into an option bonus, creating $11.032 million in 2024 cap space. So there you go right there. The New Orleans Saints restructuring the deal of Marshon Lattimore. I will say this. I mean, why wouldn't you want to play for the New Orleans Saints? I mean, I know there's been a little bit of up and down play, and they haven't made the playoffs over the last couple of seasons, but at least you know you're going to get your money. In the NFL, sometimes teams are looking for ways not to pay guys. But you got to give the Saints a lot of credit here because, in order for them to be able to rearrange the salary cap, man, they got to be writing some big checks here. So, they did what they needed to do, and they're going to do what they need to do in order to become cap compliant. Now, they have an uphill climb. I mean, they still have a lot of restructuring to do in order for them to be compliant going into the 2024 season. But, Marshon Lattimore, he is a incredible player, very, very talented, definitely deserves his money. I understand that he hasn't played and probably won't play for the rest of the season, especially if the New Orleans Saints, don't make the playoffs. But all in all, you need somebody like that on the team. And all of the great work that he has done throughout the years as a member of the New Orleans Saints, that he definitely deserves, his money. But, you want to make sure that you become cap compliant. You want to try to go out there to get under the cap. Maybe you can go after somebody that can help your team become a little bit better in 2024. We know that the Saints need a lot of things. There are some things that can really help this team get over the hump. I can just think right off the bat, a left tackle, another pass rush. I mean, there's so many different angles the Saints can go in. I mentioned this on the last episode here on the State of the Saints podcast that, I know a lot of Saints fans want the New Orleans Saints to go after a quarterback in the first round. I'm actually one of those individuals. But if the Saints were to go after a left tackle or go after a pass rush or go after someone in the secondary like a safety, I don't think anybody would be upset. I just think that this team has so many different holes that they need to fill, and not to mention they need to get a little bit younger. The New Orleans Saints are one of the oldest teams in the league, and I think that's one of the biggest issues as to why the New Orleans Saints kind of suffer a little bit, when it comes to some of these teams and some of that offensive efficiency. I'm talking about when the defense is out there. I mean, I'm not to say that these guys are slow, But it just the fact that it just seems like these guys have been around for a while, and these guys have been through a lot of battles. And you want to make sure that you have a good balance of young players as well as seasoned Grizzly veterans to be able to mentor these young guys so they can turn into some of those Grizzly tough veterans in the future. But wherever angle the New Orleans Saints go in, I think that we all will be able to accept that. Now, some people, if you're hell bent on them getting another quarterback, if they were to draft a pass rush, you'll probably get upset. But as for me, I just want to make sure that this team is straight. I want to make sure that they're good, right? That's the only thing I really care about. I mean, anything else is basically just hyperbole at this particular point. No matter where they go, whether it's left tackle, pass rush, quarterback, everything is a need right now for the future of the New Orleans Saints. And, you got to start by making sure that you become cap compliant, because all of this is basically hyperbole if they don't get under the cap, which, I'm pretty sure they won't have a problem doing, because they do it every single year. Every single year we hear about how will the Saints be able to get under the cap. There's no way they're going to be able to get under the cap, or the Saints are going to fall off. And then all of a sudden, they're still fighting for their playoff lives as of right now. And, they always seem to be able to get what they need. So you got to give credit where credit is due to the Saints front office in that regard. They always seem to get under the cap. They always seem to go after the guys that they want to go after. And they always seem to find money underneath the mattress some way, somehow. So this is one of those things that the Saints do in order to become cap compliant. It starts with Marshon Lattimore, and I'm pretty sure we're going to see more as time goes on. The New Orleans Saints are going into week number 18, taking on their bitter rivals, the Atlanta Falcons. Now, there's so many things going on with the Atlanta Falcons right now. Arthur Smith, his job is in jeopardy. I understand that earlier in the season, there were reports that came out to say that Arthur Smith's job was safe. But you have to admit, the way that this team is playing right now, and the fact that the Atlanta Falcons are eliminated from playoff contention. Let me say that again. They are eliminated from playoff contention right now. I mean, the fact is, look, if you are a head coach and your team is constantly missing the playoffs, you have a lot of talented players on your team, but you just cannot get the best out of those players. Yeah, I mean, front office has got to look at this. I mean, you have to think that General Manager Terry Fontenot is looking at this and have to make a tough decision. And, at the end of the day, you may like guys, you may feel like those guys have the recipe for success, but if it's not generating results, you have to go in a different direction. And right now, Arthur Smith has the Atlanta Falcons going in the wrong direction. Now, I'm pretty sure this is the State of the Saints podcast. And if you're a Saints fan watching this right now, you're probably saying, well, Falcon fan ain't going to get no sympathy from me. Look, I can completely understand that. But as I have to take off, my hometown New Orleans Saints fandom here and have to give it to you like a journalist here, like a media personality. I mean, they are a talented football team. They have a lot of really good players on this team, and there's no reason why they shouldn't be at least a double-digit win team. When you start to have the type of talent that you need to be successful, and it's not getting done, you have to start looking at the coach. And I know that some people probably get tired of me saying that, because most of the time, if I'm saying this, I'm probably talking about Saints head coach Dennis Allen. But look, this is just the reality of it. I mean, if you're a young team, right, and you're a bunch of young guys and you're trying to learn how to win, you can kind of understand. If you're probably picking in the top 5, you probably can understand that even more, right? If you have a coach that hasn't made the playoffs, is not generating the success right away, you can kind of understand, because, you got to kind of go through the motions before you find levels of success. But when you look at the Atlanta Falcons, man, all the money that they invested, getting guys like Jesse Bates, bringing guys like David Onyemata and Caden Ellis, all these different places, with the Atlanta Falcons organization, you have to believe that they felt like they would have got themselves over the hump. And not to mention, they play in one of the worst divisions in football. So at the beginning of the season, everybody thought that they had a chance. But the Arthur Smith, to me, I don't feel like he should keep his job. I mean, it's just that simple. I mean, the way that he has yet to really utilize talented players, you have to think that maybe there's a coach out there that would be chomping at the bit to get an opportunity to coach this football team. But enough about the Atlanta Falcons. It's about the New Orleans Saints knocking off the Atlanta Falcons in order for them to make the playoffs. And when you look at the New Orleans Saints, they're coming off their best victory of the season, in my opinion. Yes, I know that they played the New England Patriots and they shut them out. And yes, I know there were a few games in between where the Saints really played lights out. A lot of those games made us frustrated that the Saints are sitting here at 8-8. But the New Orleans Saints have an opportunity to knock off their bitter rivals against the Atlanta Falcons. And if they can replicate what we saw against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, then they have a really good chance. Now, it's not out of the realm of possibility that some of the scenarios to get the New Orleans Saints into the playoffs, they can happen. I mean, you think about the Arizona Cardinals, playing against the Seattle Seahawks. If the Arizona Cardinals were to beat the Seattle Seahawks, then it will help the Saints' cause. Well, we just seen the Arizona Cardinals knock off the Philadelphia Eagles in Philly, right? They came across the country. Now, think about this, right? They come across two time zones and they take on a Philadelphia Eagles team that was desperate, right? They needed to win in order for them to solidify the NFC East. And the Arizona Cardinals knocked them off. All right, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. Now, you look at some of the things that are going on with the Seattle Seahawks, and, you got Geno Smith. He's been dealing with injuries. They got a lot of talented players out there for Seattle, but they're not world beaters or anything like that. They still have a young team, and those guys make mistakes, and, turnovers could happen. But, the Arizona Cardinals could, look at one of these games like they're playing inspired. They want to make sure that they knock off the Seattle Seahawks to have them sitting at home. This can be one of those situations. And also, you need a little bit of help from the Chicago Bears, who are one of the most red-hot teams in the NFL. Justin Fields is making a strong case for all those out there that are in that Caleb Williams sweepstakes. Of course, we know that the Chicago Bears have the first pick overall due to the inept Carolina Panthers season that they had this year, winning only 2 games. And, of course, we know last year they made a trade, I'm talking Carolina, with the Chicago Bears in order for them to move up to get Bryce Young, who's their quarterback now. So, this could be one of those situations where they might end up getting Marvin Harrison Jr. instead of Caleb Williams, the way that Justin Fields is playing. I think that it would be absolutely insane the way that this guy is playing right now for them to use their first overall pick on Caleb Williams. I mean, you're basically betting on a guy who is coming from the college ranks to be everything you want them to be when you have a very young player that's showing you that he's everything you want him to be. So going to be a tough decision for the Chicago Bears, but they are playing really inspired football right now, and they're going up against the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers, a very impressive victory on Sunday night primetime against the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota, dominated that game. Probably Jordan Love's best game as a pro, in my humble opinion, but it's not out of the realm of possibility for the Chicago Bears to knock off the Green Bay Packers. And if those two scenarios happen and the Saints beat the Atlanta Falcons, the Saints can still get into the playoffs as a 7th seed. But, in order for the Saints to get in as division winners, they need the Carolina Panthers to knock off the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That is, to me, would be a Herculean type effort by the Carolina Panthers in order for them to do that. I just think that, Tampa was on a 4-game winning streak before they played the Saints, and they ran into that. And I just think that they're going to be more focused because they understand what is at hand as of right now. They need to win in order for them to get into the postseason. So I'm pretty sure that you combine that with the fact that maybe you have to question the Carolina Panthers football team at this point. Will guys be giving it their all, knowing that they're not going to make the playoffs, not wanting to jeopardize hurting themselves to, be rehabbing throughout the offseason versus spending my offseason traveling or doing whatever I need to do without having to worry about having surgery or having any underlying injuries, you have to wonder, will that be in the back of the mind of some of those Carolina Panthers players? And that will be beneficial to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But all in all, none of that stuff means anything if the New Orleans Saints don't beat the Atlanta Falcons. And this is why I feel, the New Orleans Saints we know are a mixed bag. I asked the question, will the real New Orleans Saints please stand up? And I'm not just saying that because it's a joke. I'm saying it because it's true. Because we know that the most frustrating thing about the New Orleans Saints is the fact that we know that this team is good and they have that Randy Moss type mentality. It seems like they play when they want to. They go out there and they play lights out defense one week, and then the next week everybody gets all excited and hyped up. Might even talk to some of your friends that's a supporter of your rival team or a team that you're playing the following week, all gassed up, thinking that your team about to go and put foots in them. And then all of a sudden they go out there and they lay the biggest egg since Mother Goose. I just don't understand this. I just don't get why they're so inconsistent. But look, they need to be consistent in this game. And it's not going to be easy. The Atlanta Falcons cannot stand the New Orleans Saints. They have been eliminated from playoff contention. I'm going to say that again. They have been eliminated from playoff contention. And we all know that old saying, misery loves company. I don't want to see you happy if I'm sad. I don't want to see you rolling in dough if I'm broke. I don't want to see you ride down the street in that Rolls Royce if I'm riding around in that El Camino with almost two flat tires. And, what I'm saying? I don't want to see this. I don't want to see prosperity if I'm out here hurting. And this is what's going on with the Atlanta Falcons. They are down right now, and they want the Saints to be down. And if they can knock off the Saints and be the sole reason why the New Orleans Saints have been eliminated from playoff contention, they're going to do it. And we've seen the last time the Saints played the Falcons dominated the line of scrimmage. I mean, they bullied the New Orleans Saints, especially when it came to the running game. Tyler Algier, they used Cordell Patterson, they used Bijan Robinson. They used the whole clip running the football, hitting the Saints in the mouth. And I don't think that they are going to shy away from that game plan. And the New Orleans Saints have got to be ready. Last week, they controlled the line of scrimmage. They stopped the run. I mean, they were very, very impressive at stopping the run. I did not expect for them to be able to stop the run because they didn't do it the entire season. Teams have been able to run the football against the New Orleans Saints. So I expect for the Atlanta Falcons to try to run the football. They have a really good offensive line, and they're going to try to use it. I don't know as of right now who's going to be the starting quarterback. Yeah, Taylor Heineke, he's dealing with a knee injury, so that may mean that Desmond Ridder is going to start. Desmond Ridder started in the game versus the New Orleans Saints the last time. He was struggling a little bit, got benched, came in the game versus the Saints and played pretty well. So if Desmond Ridder is going to play in this game, you have to think that he's going to be confident because he played the Saints last time and had a pretty good showing doing so. So if they can run the football, that can set up the play action, that sets up some big-time plays from Drake London and some of those wide receivers that they have out there, and that's not what the Saints want. The Saints want to jump on the Atlanta Falcons early. They want to make sure that the crowd stays engaged in the game. You're probably going to have some Saints fans in the crowd, probably just for the simple fact that they don't like the Falcons and they just go to the game simply just to boo the Falcons. So you want to use that as ammunition and as motivation. You don't want to get the crowd out of the game, because if you get the crowd out of the game, then it plays right into the hands of the Atlanta Falcons. To me, I feel like the Saints need to kind of follow the same blueprint and the game plan of the Atlanta Falcons. I think they need to run the football. You need to try to establish the run. You didn't run the ball, at a huge, rate, or a huge average rate, I should say. They only had like 3.1 yard average there last week versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but it was effective running. If you can run the football and run with some type of motivation, I mean, around the third and the fourth quarter, guys start to get tired of, going into those running backs and making those tackles, man. And then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, here comes a big run. And then here comes another big run. So you want to wear down that defensive front of the Atlanta Falcons. Another thing I feel like the Saints need to utilize. And this is my opinion on this. I like Caden Ellis a lot, but one thing I feel like Caden Ellis struggles with, and he did struggle with even as a Saints player, is when he was covering running backs and also when he was covering tight ends. And I think that last week the New Orleans Saints showed with Juwan Johnson is that, there's some chemistry going on between him and Derek Carr. Now, I don't know if there was a one-off. Maybe they just found something that they saw on tape, and maybe they want to go in a different direction against the Atlanta Falcons. But I am saying that Caden Ellis is, pretty solid as a linebacker, but I just think that he struggles when it comes to coverage. So to me, I would utilize Juwan Johnson in this game. I would look at some of my tight ends. I definitely would try to get Jimmy Graham involved in this game. One of the biggest issues that hurt the New Orleans Saints against the Atlanta Falcons, it wasn't the fact that the Saints couldn't move the football. They could move the football. The biggest issue was when they got down to the red zone, they couldn't score. They went 0-5 in the red zone, right? So you want to be able to get into the red zone. So you already know what the biggest issue was the last time that you played the Atlanta Falcons. So let's try to find innovative ways to maybe punch it in. Instead of getting 3 points, let's try to go ahead and get 6 points. So you want to utilize Jimmy Graham. You want to utilize Juwan Johnson. You want to utilize the running game, and you want to play smart football. You don't want to turn the ball over, especially in the red zone, and you don't want the crowd to get out of the game. If you do those things, then you'll be right there in the mix. I still feel like it's going to be tough because, once again, the Atlanta Falcons want to knock off the Saints. They want to make sure that the Saints are sitting at home just like them. So the Saints are going to have to bring their A game if they're going to knock off the Atlanta Falcons. But if they play like they did against Tampa, then it shouldn't be an issue. And if, some things start to happen, if the stars align for the New Orleans Saints, they could be in the postseason. But what do you all think? What do you think about the Saints restructuring the deal of Marshon Lattimore? What do you think about the Atlanta Falcons? Should they fire their coach? What do you think about some of the playoff scenarios that are going on? Do you still feel like the Saints can get in as a 7th seed if they don't win the division? Do you think they're going to knock off the Atlanta Falcons? Comment down below, like and share this video. Thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. You can check out previous episodes available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor FM, and follow me on X at TJAY Jones 8. Till next time. All I got to say is, who dat?